wiped out.
What is going on, everyone? Griffin here, coming at you with some Juke gameplay, and today we are going to be talking about the ibex. Why is this the worst SMG in Rogue Company? So let's head over and check it out. As you can see here, this is the ibex, and we're going to run through everything as I normally do, give a little bit of context, then we're going to head back up top and actually talk about the crucial points to make this a better weapon. So for those of you that do not know, the ibex is a burst weapon, but it has a burst of 5 bullets as opposed to 2 or 3 from other weapons in traditional burst style fashion. The Mamba, I believe, is a 3-bullet burst as well as the salvo, but this is the first weapon that they've introduced that is a 5-round burst. And as you can see here, at the uncommon level, so as soon as you buy it, you see that the body damage is 50, the range is 11, the mag size is 30, the fire rate is 3.57, the handling is 89, and the reload time is 1.5 seconds. Now, as we scale this up, at the rare upgrade, the magazine size is increased and the reload speed is decreased, so it reloads a little bit faster. At the epic upgrade, we get hip fire accuracy and reduced reticle bloom, and then for the legendary upgrade, we do get a damage range increase and also suppressed firing along with it. Now, one of the biggest problems with the ibex falls right in line to one of the videos that I had that came out last week about the problem with burst weapons in video games in general, and more so Rogue Company, because it feels like the servers can't technically keep up with where those bullets should go, and as opposed to shooting 1 bullet at a time like most weapons do, even though they're fully automatic, it's still 1 bullet at a time. This is a burst of 5 bullets that is coming out of this thing. So it has a really hard time keeping up with how the bursts should interact with the environment and also the enemy players whenever you are playing against people. But one of the biggest downfalls, in my opinion, is how aggressive the recoil for this weapon actually is. And I know that it is something that is not terribly difficult to control, especially up close, because the recoil is in more or less like a V pattern, right? Sometimes when you shoot it, it's going to go up to the left. Sometimes when you shoot it, it's going to go up to the right. There's no real true consistency that I've noticed with it. It's one of those things that feels very random, right? So sometimes when you shoot it, you may get that recoil pattern that goes up and to the left. Sometimes when you shoot it, you may get that recoil pattern that goes up and to the right. And whenever you're trying to correct that recoil, there's no consistency there. So more times than not, you're going to be trying to control it in the wrong direction because you're not going to be expecting it to go in that direction. And I know that if you pull down whenever you shoot, then that's fine. You can still somewhat control the vertical recoil for the weapon, but that horizontal recoil is still going to be there. So it's still going to sway left and right depending on how the recoil pattern is going to go in that particular burst. Another problem is the fact that the weapon does 50 body damage. If you hit all 5 bullets at that optimal range, it does 50 damage. That's not counting headshots. Once you start adding the headshot multiplier on there, it does a massive amount of damage. So yes, granted, I will give the devs that this is a hard-hitting SMG, but it almost feels like you have to be right up next to someone to get the full potential of this weapon, much like the objection. That's really how it feels. There's no real long range opportunities to be had with this weapon compared to several of the other SMGs, especially because of how aggressive the recoil pattern is. Like whenever you use the SLC has a very aggressive recoil pattern, but it pulls pretty much straight up into the air. So you can aggressively hold, down whatever it is that you're using to aim with, and you can somewhat correct that recoil pattern and use it the way that it's meant to be used. Whenever the recoil pattern is in a V shape and you don't know which way it's going, it's hard to correct that, especially at longer ranges. Whenever you get right up next to someone, if it recoils up or if it recoils to one side or the other, 9 times out of 10, it's normally fine. It's going to kind of track with them anyway. And if it doesn't, then you'll be able to get more shots off just as quickly as possible. So you don't really feel the negative side side effects of it at that point, you really feel it at those longer ranges. And to me, that's where the ibex has a massive downfall. You can run it SMG up close. You can run it basically like you run the objection and get right up in, right up next to them and just roll with it and hope for the best. But that's not the way that I want to play SMGs in Rogue Company. I want it to be a versatile mid to short range alternative to assault rifles and other things like that. This is not the weapon that needs to be ran on any of the rogues, in my opinion. I know that Juke has access to it right now. I have a feeling that whenever they introduced another rogue in the future, they'll probably slot the ibex in there so that more people will have access to it and they can try to unlock it. But right now, it just doesn't feel like a good SMG. It feels like it needs to have a ton of work. And yes, some of the other SMGs have way more drastic downfalls, but this is the most consistent when it comes to the downfall scale. The LMPX, the Knight, the SLC, the 24S can be upgraded to be fairly consistent. The problem with the 24S is the ammo count, but you correct that whenever you max out the upgrades on it. The problem with the SLC is the recoil. Well, you can correct that whenever you max it out. The problem with the Knight is the ammo and the fire rate, and you can correct that by maxing that weapon out. With the ibex, even when you max that weapon out to full legendary status, it still feels like it is a pea shooter that every other bullet hits someone, and it just doesn't feel as fulfilling and as satisfying to use as some of the other weapons. Now, what I would like to see them do is actually bring that body shot damage of it down, possibly increase the range of it slightly, and reduce the recoil for it, like the ADS recoil for it, very slightly. If they would go in there and put a consistent recoil pattern into it, I think that it would be a somewhat viable weapon at that point. If you would not have it be this like 50-50 variable of like, is it going to recoil up to the left or up to the right? If you would fix that, then I think that that would be a better experience for players, and I think that they would be a little bit more willing to use this weapon. But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to run into the ibex when it comes to SMGs, especially with the changes that happened with the LMPX recently. We've seen more SMGs kind of come up and be more viable in this current season. The Knight has been used quite frequently. I've seen the SLC a lot more here lately. The 24S does get pulled out occasionally. It seems like more veteran players are using the 24S, especially once they get to that legendary upgrade for it. Of course, the LMPX is still a viable weapon, but it feels like the ibex and the objection are the two weapons that nobody realistically wants to mess with, because you have to be in such close range to use them, and you don't really have a lot of offerings from other rogues to allow that potential to happen. You've got like Mac and Lancer are the only two that I can think of off the top of my head that have access to SMGs where you can actually fully get in there and utilize those two weapons at the ranges that they need to be utilized at. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. What do you feel like is the biggest problem with the ibex, and what would you do to change the ibex to make it a more viable weapon? Be sure to let me know. Also, be sure to check the description for links to Facebook, Discord, and Twitter. Those are the places to contact me. If you haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you've already subscribed to the channel, then consider hitting that join button to become one of the 256 crew members. Lastly, on Thursdays from 8 until 11 p.m. Central Time, Sundays from 10 a.m. until we get tired, I will be streaming here on YouTube. So if you're interested and available, please feel free to stop by and say hello there. Thanks for watching, guys.
Of course, I mean, most Elton John songs are popular, so it's hard to pick,
Yeah.
But, he did everything from like,
shows how good he is.
I can't remember the name, but it's how wonderful life is with you in the world.
Your song.
Your song, yeah.
Did it.
He played that for you, Trav.
Yeah, because I was not.
He played Daniel for Trav.
I was not in a fucking good mood when I was there, so he actually did, because I was like, all right.